Before we start this week, I've got an important message to play from Johann Lamont, who, after the criticism she's received, decided to send us in a little comment.
If I could press a button and genuinely solve the unemployment problem, do you think that I would not press that button this instant? Does anyone imagine that there is the smallest political gain in letting this level of unemployment continue? Or that there is some obscure economic religion which demands this level of unemployment as part of its grisly ritual?
The question is, do you agree that Scotland should be an independent country?
For me, the principle that we work best when we work together, without coercion or conscription, bullying or bossiness.
Always whenever someone says, oh, peace and sausage, and it's a roll and sausage, and this sausage roll, we're better together.
Well, they didn't. It was us. We invented it, just like every other bloody thing.
Well, that's very interesting.
We have a very serious the referendum. It seems to me that they're not dealing with the issues.
Hi, if you've been fed up with most of the debate until now, the Scottish Independence Podcast is your chance to hear some different views on what the independence referendum means for Scotland. Hello and welcome to Scottish Independence Podcast number 6. This time I'm talking with Mike Small from Bella Caledonia. We talked a little bit about different strategies that the Yes campaign might adopt. We talked a bit about the ongoing situation with Johann Lamont and the importance of suggesting there is an alternative and the concept of universalism. JK Rowling even gets a wee look in as well somewhere. So I hope you enjoy it and I'll have a wee word with you at the end.
Alright, so Mike Small, you're the editor, I suppose, of Bella Caledonia, and you've been involved in a lot of other media projects, and it's fair to say you're probably in the Yes camp. So, in terms of strategy, what do you think the Yes campaign is doing well at the moment, and what do you think they're doing badly at the moment?
Well, I think it's just starting, really. I think what they're doing well and what they're probably going to have to do more of is the kind of communities of interest and the different bodies that are emerging, like the LGBT, the Women for Independence, the Creatives for Independence. All those kind of groups emerging, I think, are going to be the real strength of the campaign. So in a way, what they have to do is just liberate that energy and let people do their own stuff. And so it's quite a different sort of focus for some of these people who've been political campaigners and have been, by definition, kind of control freaks, you know, because this is not about that. This is about allowing people to express what they're attracted to in the notion of the possibility of a new Scotland. And that's a very, very different sort of task and challenge than a kind of Peter Mandelson style, everybody stick to the message, I'm going to get you on your mobile and your pager with the lines you've got to say. So it'll be really interesting to see whether they're able to do that. But I think it's quite interesting the people that they've called in, they've appointed recently, people like Stan Blackley and Stuart Kirkpatrick. So, you know, I think that really looks good, but it is a different challenge because it's all about liberating other people to do stuff. Other people like Shirley Ann Somerville, it's really interesting appointment, Susan Stewart. So they've got a good mix of really dynamic people, and what they need to do is let them get on with it.
And what do you think they're not doing well? Something like on Twitter, for example. Like I've just got their Twitter feed here. I'm looking at it, and it's just, you know, Yes Scotland events, show your support, sign the declaration, can you donate, want to work for Yes for Scotland. Like, if it was me, I would have someone on there permanently responding to people instead of kind of diktats. I would have them, you know, engaging, speaking to people constantly. I think that's a bit of a mistake, the way that they're running their Twitter feed. I don't know how you find it.
Yeah, I think, but maybe they don't need to run their Twitter feed because maybe there's, you know, 100,000 other independent-minded people writing more provocative, interesting stuff. So I don't think they need to control everything, and I don't think they need to run everything. I think they're probably just creating forums. What I think would be interesting for them to do more of, and I hope they will, is more live events. And these aren't about big rallies, but about gigs and exhibitions and concerts and ceilidhs and all sorts of different scaled events, because I think there's something in the nature of live events that is going to be really pivotal about inspiring people in a way that a Twitter stream isn't going to.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something about the combination of social media and live events and the dynamic between the two that could become really interesting, and I look forward to them doing a bit more of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Have you been to a few yourself? There's been a few so far.
Well, obviously I was at the rally, and that was interesting in terms of the spin room afterwards and who claimed that. But what you experienced was that everybody who was at the event was absolutely buzzing from it and thought it was fantastic. And then there was all these people kind of dissing it and trying to distort it afterwards. So I think that's the point, that if you're at a live event with real people and you now have this phenomenon of meeting people and announcing yourself by your Twitter handle, and people find that really refreshing. So like, right, okay, that's you. And that's a great moment because it is face-to-face. There is nothing to replace face-to-face contact.
Yeah, for increasing the energy levels and helping to organise new events and stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
Creating little communities, like you said earlier.
Exactly.
In the face of, if it's not overtly hostile, they will pick and choose. They'll selectively ignore certain events. How can Yes Scotland kind of force itself into the mainstream? If you were in charge, how would you try to do that?
I wouldn't. I think it's about unleashing all of the anarchy of the creativity that's on the rampage in Scotland. If you think about projects like Eggbox on the island of Egg, which is a kind of social enterprise encouraging cultural and economic activity, and I think their slogan's something like making the peripheral central. Or if you think about Blip Photo or Northern Lights, the film project that recently asked Scots to kind of reflect their own lives on film. Or if you think of the sort of potty-mouthed Glasgow Podcart, or various online initiatives that all have at their centre of at the core of their idea, participation and expression and creativity. So I think all that Yes needs to do is open the door to those voices and let those energies out. I think the more they try and stamp everything Yes, the less that's going to work. But a lot of these things have an explicit independence tag attached to themselves and haven't necessarily made themselves politically known, but they are emerging as part of this new Yes movement. Also, I think, as well as some of these ideas, there's other energies that are coming forward. If you look at Ruth Wishart coming out and announcing her backing for the Yes vote, if you look at stuff like the new book by Scott Hames, which is done with Word Power Books, and that's Writers on Scottish Independence. There's some really interesting stuff emerging with both journalists and commentators who previously felt they needed to be independent or couldn't say where their vote lied. That's shifting, and I think that's part of the shift in the media. I think that's part of the media kind of dissembling and beginning to become more interesting. But also some of the books we've seen recently, and new writing coming out. So Scott Hames' book is Writers on Independence, and it's got an extraordinary collection of people, including Alan Bissett, Kathleen Jamie, Don Patchison, Denise Mia, James Kelman, Janice Galloway, Alistair Gray, a really, really rich stream of people. Some of the people from Variant that we had a big debate on Bella Caledonia recently. So I think what's happening is the media may continue to trot out its unionist line, but at the same time, this creative energy from the writers and the thinkers in Scotland is coming out with much more nuanced, radical, complex and interesting analysis that people are going to respond to and engage with. And it will just sort of brush aside the sort of rubbish that the mainstream media comes out with.
So are you terrified that JK Rowling came out for the union?
Yes, English billionaire living in mansion in Edinburgh is against the union.
Well, she's a fantasist, so...
She is a fantasist, that's right. But I'm glad she thinks that we're all doing very well. That's great.
Mm. I always thought like she used to sort of write in a cafe because she didn't have any money. Well, I don't know if that's a bad thing to say, but I thought she used to write the books in a cafe in Edinburgh because she couldn't afford to heat her house, but she thinks we're all doing very well. That seems somewhat contradictory to me.
That's right. She's a single mum, isn't she? And she's on the breadline. Yeah. I don't know if that's pulling the ladder up or if it's just she's been a fantasist for too long. She's a good friend of the Browns. I'm sure she's a lovely lady. I've always thought her books were crap. I think she's a much better marketing woman than a writer, but you're not allowed to say that.
I don't know if I have to give her some credit. She made kids read again, but I'm not going to talk about the literary brilliance of the book.
Isn't that Irvin Welsh?
It's funny you say that, actually. When I was 16 years old, I was caught in the school library reading Trainspotting by the headmaster. And he was giving me, this is before the film and everything, he was giving me dog's abuse. You shouldn't be reading that. Where did you get that? He confiscated it. This is interesting. I actually had that book confiscated from me. I just went and got it again, but there you go.
Oh, the mark of good literature.
Just one more question about this stuff. Like, okay, I agree with you about, unleashing the potential and the internet communities, mixing them with real communities. But at the same time, the television, for better or worse, is still the most important medium. Or not the most important, but it's the one that most people see. I mean, I don't know if I'm inventing words now, but internet users, Facebook users, Twitter users, we're all very internet-centric. We all have our own little online world as well as our real world. Do you think that the Yes campaign can do well without television coverage?
No, they probably need to engage with that, and there probably needs to be a strategy for demanding some kind of even-handedness in that terrain. I think that when that even-handedness is denied them, that is going to go down very badly, though. So, in a way, they're in a win-win situation there, because they'll either be given appropriate airspace or they will be denied that, and that will work very badly in the Twitter sphere and in the alternative world where these things are discussed. So I'm not sure if I quite believe the idea that the mainstream media or the EBC can sort of clamp down on the Yes campaign and usher it out. I don't think that's going to be possible.
Okay. And to change the subject a bit, there's obviously been major news this week. I had a little chat with James Maxwell about it earlier, and Wings Over Scotland did the best tweet today. It was an online poll of choose your favourite kicking of Johann Lamont. With a list of all the articles abusing her, which I thought was quite funny, actually. They had the one from the guy from Lenin's tomb in The Guardian, which I thought was fantastic. I don't know if you read that one.
Is that the one, why are they so abysmal?
Yes. Which
why is Scottish so abysmal?
Yeah.
That was very funny, yes.
So they've got, on their list, they've got Richard Seymour, that was the guy in The Guardian, who's currently winning, Ian Bell, Robin McAlpine, Ian McWhirter, Willie Sullivan, Suki Sanga, Joyce McMillan, George Eaton and Jonathan Shafi. On the podcast episode 4, we had James Maxwell delivering his kicking. Would you care to deliver another one?
Yeah, well, I'm really disappointed that Bella Caledonia is not in that top 10 because we've had a couple of efforts. But I suppose what we've also tried to do is make a positive case for universalism and sort of look at what the roots are of that thinking. Both in sort of post-war labour policy, the roots of the National Health Service, but also before that, people like Stanley Diamond, the anthropologist, and Paul Radin, who talked about the idea of the irreducible minimum, which is this idea that you, in order to be part of the tribe, in order to be a member of society, in organic societies, there was a basic level of facilities that you were allowed. So you were allowed to be healthy and to have a house and have enough to eat. And if you were a member of the tribe, a bona fide part of society, that was just to be expected because that's what you needed to be able to participate. And that's kind of the roots of universalism. It's very deep-rooted. It might have its latest political expression in post-war labour policy, but it goes much deeper than that in human society. People expecting and demanding that in order to be civilised at some very basic level, you have universal provision. So I'm all for giving Johann Lamont and her advisors a good kicking because it's ridiculous and I think it's collapsing for them. But I'm also quite interested in looking at the positive case for universalism, and it's reaffirming that, because sometimes when these policy ideas come forward, they get slated, but they subtly shift the debate. And I think we need to watch against that. And what we need to do is use this as an opportunity